Welcome back to the Total Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Paul. Our special guest this week is Elaine Espinola. She's a former MRS DC America 2015 pageant state title holder, along with a very well-known acting and podcast career in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I am so excited to have her on the show. I think you guys are really going to learn that experiences and learning things as you go is how things really happen. And I think the longer I do this podcast, I think there's a really amount of consistency that you hear. And I hope that Elaine is just another person on the list of people that I've interviewed that really motivate you to go out there and be the best person you want to be, no matter if you want to be an actor or a pageant contestant or a professional athlete. So I hope you stay tuned and enjoy the interview. Our sponsor of the week is Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Production. No matter if you need photos or video, they are the team to get the job done. If you are coming to an event and you need a photographer for an event, a wedding, or professional headshot, they are the team to get the job done. And if you have a commercial, if you have a special event where you need videography, or if you have a wedding that's coming up, they are the videographers to get the job done. So no matter if you need photos or video, Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions is the team to get the job done. And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's such incredible to have you on the show, Elaine. I was always excited to have you as Miss DC and then Mrs. DC. And it was always a thrill to work with you and your entire family. Your kids are so thoughtful. I've never had a group of kids. The clients' kids give me autographed drawings when I go to a photo shoot. So that was that was so nice. So.
Well, thanks for saying that. My whole family really enjoyed working with you. You were really, really awesome and fun to work with. And we loved our pictures too. So thank you.
I mean, they came out great too. So I appreciate the hard work that you guys put into it too.
Yeah, they turned out really great.
So I wanted to bring you on because, of course, I wanted to get your experience about being in front of the camera because you have such a huge list of accomplishments being in front of the camera, doing podcasts, being Mrs. DC. So how did that all start? Were you always wanting to be in front of the camera as a little kid, or this is just something that's come on in the last couple years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, great question. So yeah, no, this was definitely something that kind of was created sort of later in my life and sort of as a second career, really. So as a child, no, this was not on my radar. And
What did you were you just doing like other stuff like were you doing anything, like were you doing ballet or were you doing sports or?
Yeah, as a kid I did sports. As a
Okay.
kid I did sports, I did soccer and I cheered. So I cheered, that was like throughout most of my life. I cheered in grade school, high school, and college. So of course I had sort of the I don't know what you want to call it, but ability to be in front of people. So just cheering and doing other stuff. Love that. But
Self-confidence.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah. And then I also travel is a big part of my life, and I did a lot of luckily, international travel with my family as a kid. And then in high school and then in college, I spent a semester abroad traveling the world on a ship, actually. So I always feel like travel is a big part of me. And I bring that up only to say that something that I believe is that all of your experiences along the way obviously help shape who you are. And so for me to just say, well, I've been doing, things in front of the camera for the last 5 years. It's kind of like, well, where did that come from? And I kind of feel like, again, experiences I had as a kid and as a college student and things like that kind of help shape my I guess, interest, ability, and success in things I'm doing today, even though at the time, you don't really know what the future holds. So, but I would say, yeah, travel is a big part of kind of my life growing up and my life now. And then also, yeah, comfortable being in front of people. And, um, and so I did. So my first career, actually, as a matter of fact, my first job out of college was that I taught English at a university in Bangkok, Thailand. So I did that for 1 year. Um, and then I came back and then I started a career in the pharmaceutical industry. So I was a pharmaceutical sales representative. Um, and I did that for about a decade. Baltimore was my territory for 1 year. That's where I started. And then I switched to another company, Novartis Pharmaceuticals, and my territory was the DC area. So that's what brought me to DC. So I feel so connected with the District of Columbia. It was like my, where I really launched my career. It's where I met my husband. It's where we were married. It's where all of my children were born. It's where I bought my first house. And when I became Mrs. DC America, for me, it was really special. It just kind of came full circle because so much of my big things in life happened in DC. And so, yeah, so I did pharmaceutical sales for almost a decade. And during that time, I also got married and had kids, which is why I ended up kind of leaving the corporate world to have my kids and raise my kids. And then we moved to Virginia. Like a lot of people, you're sort of just looking for more space. And so we moved. We're in Northern Virginia, just outside of DC, and that's where I was just kind of busy doing the mom thing. I had little tiny kids and lots of Cheerios and diapers, and sort of just minding my own business, very full schedule, busy doing the kid thing, and and then and then this opportunity to be in a pageant kind of just came in my world, and that's when I had never really done that before. It was not on my radar, not something I was looking to do, but it just happened in a time in my life where I was sort of like, huh, well, why not? Someone brought this opportunity to my attention, and at first I was flattered that someone thought I might be a good fit for a pageant, and I didn't take it too seriously. I was, like I said, busy with little kids. But then I kind of thought about it and I realized I was in a place, Paul, where my kids were not infants anymore. So life was they were like, at the time, I want to say, I don't know, 6, 3, and 2, something like this. So
Hmm.
I felt like I could get a little bit of myself back. And
There's nothing wrong with that.
yeah. And so I thought, hey, you know what? Why not? So everyone always says, like, what was your why? Like, why did you want to do it? And for me, it was more just like, why not? I did not have some strong why. It wasn't like, I'm doing this because of X, Y, and Z. This opportunity came around and I thought, why not?
No,
So
of
I did it.
course.
Yeah. So I did that. And that was in 2015. And, I always joke, that famous Paul, that, and as a photographer, this pose very well when they announce the name and the girl does
Oh
the, oh
yes,
my
over the
goodness.
face. Yeah.
And for me, I really was like, oh my goodness, because it was such a quick turnaround. I think the opportunity presented itself to me in January, and then the pageant was in March. So again, it was not something I was training for. It's not something I did before. I just kind of did it on a whim, and then I just kind of won. And then I quickly was sort of like, whoa, what exactly does all this entail? Because I didn't do tons of research to know, well, what does this mean exactly?
But maybe that also puts you at an advantage because you're not like completely thinking something and obsessing about something that maybe you can't really change. Or
True. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I didn't think too hard. I just went with it. Um, so yeah, so I made that gesture like, oh my gosh.
well,
And I really felt
or
like
we're still in the same. We're still, it's not been too long ago. That we're still in the generation that all grew up with Home Alone. So all the
yeah,
girls kind of mimic that either
yes.
over the cheek or over the eye look. So
Yeah.
and that'll
Well, it
probably
makes
be
for a
that way
great
for a
photo
long
too.
time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when I won the Mrs. DC America pageant in 2015, the title, um, that really just opened my eyes to a whole nother world. And it was a very welcome opportunity because, I had sort of closed the door on my corporate professional experience, and my mindset was that I'm going to do the mom thing. I'm going to raise my kids. I felt grateful to do that. I wanted to be with my kids, but I also, Paul, realized that um, like I'm the kind of person that also needs some things for myself. So I had also been engaging in that time in like Stella and Dot, which is jewelry, and Unique, which is makeup. And for me, it wasn't so much because I love jewelry and makeup. I'm like
Social
any other
interaction.
woman. I like it just fine. But I came from a background of sales, so for me, it was fun and it was easy and it was an opportunity for me to engage in something outside of the house, but also have a super flexible entrepreneurship where I could still, do that on my own time, but of course, just be here with my kids 24/7. So I was doing that, and then the pageant came along, and it really was a welcomed opportunity to kind of re-engage in kind of me as opposed to the mom.
No,
And so yeah, I
yeah,
welcomed all of that
I mean,
world.
I don't blame you in that accord at all because I that's my entire childhood. My mom um, really decided to pick a job in which she could work from home, and she started a
Hmm.
business so she could work from home. So I commend you to put your kids first and allow you to have some sanity and have a career where you could put your kids first and then also still be able to do some work at your at your discretion and
Yeah.
as much work you wanted to do. So
Yeah, no, thanks for saying that. And actually, that kind of rolled right into what my platform would be. And as you very well know, every pageant girl has her platform. And I remember when the director of Mrs. DC America asked me what my platform would be, I remember thinking, oh, geez, well, I'm not like a young 20 something with no kids. I'm not here to like save the planet, although that's wonderful as well. But I just thought, well, what is important to me in my life right now? And it was encouraging the empowerment for women through entrepreneurship because, listen, not every woman or mother has the opportunity to stay at home with their kids. Some women want to or have to go back to work, and that's great. And my whole point was that I wanted to promote this empowerment for women, period, with whatever you choose to do. Um, no judging. Being a person is hard enough. Being a woman is hard enough. Being a mother is hard enough. And so I simply wanted to kind of promote this idea that, as women, we shouldn't feel bad if we have to do one thing or another, or guilty if we want to do one thing or another, but that we should feel empowered in what we're doing. And I felt that entrepreneurship for me was this great opportunity to that made me feel really empowered because I wanted to stay home with my kids, but I also wanted to work and make money and be productive in that sense. And so I was really determined to create that opportunity that would be successful. And by success, I just mean what brought me joy. And I absolutely found that. And so I wanted to kind of promote that. So that became my platform, empowerment
but
for
isn't that
women.
what the definition of the American dream is, to have the opportunity to forge a path that makes you happy and to be.
Absolutely.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't. I I think that's the best definition, is to give you the opportunity to have your own path. So,
absolutely. And then just to take it a step further, when you're doing that, you also need support.
oh,
You also need role
absolutely.
models. You need to see that it's possible, and you need to know who you can lean on. And because I know a lot of people want that, or there's things I want for myself, but if there's not like someone that I can look up to that's doing that, or some support, it makes it more difficult. Um, and so I feel like there are plenty of people that I looked up to that were doing what I was trying to do. There's support available for me, and I just kind of wanted to jump right in and then kind of be that and do that too. And then I hope, I'd like to think that I have been supportive of other women who have tried to kind of do that as well. So, or at least share my advice or whatever has helped me be successful. And again, I think that word successful is so important because it doesn't mean there's no one definition for that. By successful, I don't mean making X amount of money or anything like that. I just mean finding joy, finding joy, whatever. And to that might mean I'm making X amount of money. That might be joy to someone, and that's great. But it could simply mean I feel fulfilled. I feel absolutely fulfilled, whatever that means. And so I absolutely have found success. Success meaning to me something, what it especially means to me. But my point is that I love helping women kind of find that as well.
I mean, I think that's what most people are really trying to find their definition of success, because that's the hardest part, is getting that definition for yourself. And then if you can figure
Hmm.
that, then you know where to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so you got a lot of things here. So I really want to break this down. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So, where were you born?
Oh, I was born in a little town called Washington, New Jersey.
Okay. So, okay. Washington, Jersey. Okay. And then your family, um, um, I guess they were is a military family. It sounded like you guys
No,
travel,
no, no, non-military. No, my
just
dad.
traveled.
Yeah. So my dad actually, he passed away 2 years
I'm so
ago.
sorry.
But yeah, thanks. My dad was an OBGYN, so he's a
Okay.
physician. And he actually delivered me.
Wow.
So yeah, my dad
Talk
delivered me.
talk talk about, that's pretty awesome. Okay.
Yeah, brought
Hey,
life into
my
this
dad
world.
didn't just cut
Really,
the
yeah,
he didn't just cut the cord. He made sure I was delivered. That's
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 right.
take it to the next level.
That's right. So yeah, so
And then you spent a year on, was it like a cruise ship or was it a yacht? Like, did you guys
yeah,
just
so
sail? Like, that's a really cool experience. Like,
oh my gosh, the coolest. I cannot speak more highly about this. It's called Semester at Sea.
oh,
So
you
I,
semester C. Awesome. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're familiar.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
Uh, I'm a '80s kid, but I grew up. Like that means you grew up in the '90s. 10 years. Um, so they did a whole episode as a real world, like a reality show. Um,
On Semester at Sea?
yes, and it's
What?
yeah. So you should
How did I
totally
not
look
know?
it up. Yeah, yeah, you totally,
I
because I
totally
think
do.
it's online, because it's not part of the real world set. You know how they
Yeah.
had real world and road rules?
Yes.
It's part of road rules, because
You're kidding
for
me.
the old are people that are not are not part of the MTV generation, which just means you're not part of. They used to have two different shows. One was called Real Worlds, which
Yeah,
is what still kind of exists because that's part of the challenge. And then you had the people from Road Rules, and
I
they were
remember that.
competing shows with the
Yeah.
same premise. But the people on Road Rules would live in a RV.
The
Well, what
RV. Yeah.
right? Well, one season they went to do a semester at sea.
Okay.
But that's
Interesting.
cool. So, did
Yeah.
you do high school or did you do a semester of college?
That was in college. So like I said, I grew up in New Jersey and I went to school there. And then I went to Loyola College in Baltimore, Maryland. And it was my junior year that I studied abroad. And
Okay.
so, you had people going to Barcelona or here or there. And I came across this semester at sea opportunity. And it's so funny, Paul, because like I'm dating myself, but nowadays, you want to do something and you can look it up all online.
I
You
know.
can do all this research. You can apply online and all of this. I
I know.
mean, I literally walked by a folding table with like someone sitting there with brochures.
And
Oh,
you're
what's
taking. Oh,
this?
and this is real. Are you just gonna take my money?
Well, yeah. So like, I literally grabbed a brochure. Like, what on earth is that? I grabbed a brochure and I'm reading it and I'm like, this looks cool. I'll be on a ship. Oh my gosh. And the ship literally sailed around the globe. So it was to start in the Bahamas and then you literally stop in 9 ports of call around the world and end, well, Tokyo, Japan, and then in Seattle. You arrive back in the United States in Seattle. So you're literally around the world on a ship for 100 days with other college kids.
Okay, so you only did one semester. You
I
didn't
did
do
one
two.
semester. Nope.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. 3 months.
I mean,
Um, and
I
it was amazing. It
I
was incredible. It was like the coolest thing I have ever done. I recommend it to everyone. I mean, it's always incredible to travel and it's always incredible to go to another place and see what life is like. What was really cool was waking up in South Africa and the next day waking up in India. I mean, and then you just fully immerse yourself in this and then the next day you are in, Malaysia. So things are just drastically different the sights, the sounds, the smells, the culture, the food. I mean, everything. And then, luckily we were kids, so college kids, so we had our home base of the ship. Um, but seeing the world like that in such a short amount of time, but like being so immersed in it, was just, I can't even imagine. I mean, it's just
No, I know.
indescribable how awesome it was.
Are you the same person if you didn't go on that trip, or are you totally more wise and more caring because you went on that trip?
Without a doubt, a totally different person. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. It lent itself to my curiosity of the world and other cultures. It lent itself to my um, self confidence. I mean, I specifically remember being on a train, um, and it was running through the middle of the night in Kenya in Africa, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, I can't believe I'm here. And by the way, so when you're on the ship, you're studying, you're learning, and what was really cool about it is you could take. I was taking, for example, a history class, and so I would learn about the history of Venezuela, for example, and then you would go to Venezuela, and then when you got back on the ship, the next chapter might be, kind of history as it relates to Cape Town, South Africa, and then you arrive there, so you're kind of like seeing it in front of your eyes. And so my point is that you really just learn so much about these places, and then you go and you see it, and I mean that just changes you. It's one thing to read things in a textbook, and it's a whole other thing to experience it yourself firsthand and put your feet on that place and walk around and see it. And that was crazy cool. You
I
learn about
mean,
apartheid, and
you're
then you go and you visit Nelson Mandela's jail cell on Robben Island. I mean, there's nothing that describes that feeling versus reading in a book. So I'm a totally different person having seen the world and experienced it, and I have so much more empathy in my heart and just humanity in my soul from seeing what I've seen. And it almost makes me, and I almost have to calm myself, because sometimes when I hear people complaining about petty things, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like you really there's a lot bigger things on this
oh
planet
yeah.
than these minor, like my Amazon shipment didn't arrive on time
Oh, I
stuff.
know. I mean,
You
you're
know.
preaching. You're preaching to the choir. I mean, I am totally. As we were talking about earlier, I personally own a travel agency, and
Yeah.
I'm not pushing that. I just I think that I think that we would be a much more wider, open society if we would all travel and see all other cultures. One of the things I think that really um, shaped my younger uh, self was I don't know if you've ever heard of People to People, and it's an organization that Eisenhower started to get younger kids to travel abroad when they're
Hmm.
under 17,
Hmm.
and those are all experiences along with the semester at sea that is such an incredible way to really make you a better citizen because you came
For
back,
sure.
you're much more productive. So
Yeah, absolutely. And the truth is we're global citizens. And so
yes,
we
we
have
are.
to think like that. We have to think like that. And so I couldn't agree with you more. And I love what you do for a living with your photography and also your travel, and you're making
Oh,
people's
thank you.
dreams come true, and it's an incredible thing, and I agree with you, and that's why I'm absolutely so committed to traveling with my kids. Right now they are 10, 11, and 12, and we actually
It's like the perfect age because they haven't they
yeah.
haven't they haven't become into that danger zone, and they still want to give you
Hmm.
hugs, and
Yeah, it's a
so
special place, but I've taken them
just
to
freeze
they've
them and then unfreeze them after like 5 years, and then you just skip
that's
over
right.
it.
That's right. That's right. But they've been to the Philippines, and they've been to Thailand, and they've been to Africa, and we were supposed to go to Spain and Morocco this August, but because of COVID-19, we had to cancel, which is fine. We'll go another time. But I couldn't agree with you more, and
Well,
it's
I would
so
assume.
important.
No, no. I apologize for interrupting. I assume you're going to encourage all three of your kids to do semester C if that's something that's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep,
So,
absolutely.
um, So I was really curious because I think teaching plays a major role, and you said you were teaching the Philippines. How did that come about? Like that's like a huge like what? Like you just
Right.
mentioned that
Yeah.
you mentioned that it's like oh, and I
Oh,
taught in the Philippines, and I was like whoa, I'm like what? And
right,
like and
right.
you said you teach English? Is that what you taught? Did I
Yeah,
hear that
no,
right?
yeah,
I'm
so
like
it
that's
was actually
awesome.
it was actually Thailand. I taught
Or
in Thailand.
Thailand, sorry.
Yeah, and so that was so after so you can imagine I'm a junior in college and I just returned back to the States at my college in Baltimore after having seen the world. And I was all of a sudden, we just talked about, a different person. So I'm going, okay, so I need to keep traveling. That was amazing. And there's no way I'm going to just like start a job and hunker down. Like
Right, of course.
I was not in that mode or mood. So I was looking for opportunities to travel and work. And so each college has like usually they have what would you call this, relationships with other universities where they do study abroads, right?
The exchange program.
Exchange. There you go. And so Loyola had an exchange program with a college called Assumption University in Bangkok, Thailand, where our students would go to Assumption University for their study abroad, and then kids from Assumption University in Bangkok would come to Loyola for their study abroad. And so they had this great exchange program relationship. And with that, once again, Paul, I'm walking down the hallways at my college and I see some brochures or something
They must
about
they must have really loved you. They must have been like,
you know,
"Oh, like, there's Elaine. We have to get
see what
her.
I'm
Come
saying?
on over. Come on over. Come on over."
I'm an easy sale. So like that's why when someone was like, "You should do a pageant," I was like, "Sure." Like, I just come across these things that sound cool and I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So anyway, but yeah, I came across I think something that said like go teach in Thailand and I just picked it up and I was like, "Ooh, what is this?" And I had not been to Thailand at that point, but during semester at sea, we did go through Asia, and that was like I loved it, and I just kind of looked into it, and so I just made up my mind. I was like, I'm doing this, and I applied, and they accepted me, and so I was. It's very funny because my title, Paul, was Professor of English at Assumption
Okay.
University,
I like.
and I
Hey,
was like
it
20
sound.
years old.
I know it sounds like naughty, but also super intelligent. You know, it like works on so many.
Exactly. Like, wow, you're a professor at a university. But yeah, I graduated with a degree in psychology and business, and that's just what the translation was. But so I
Okay,
went
it
there for
works for me.
5 days. Yeah, it worked for me too. But I left 5 days after I graduated. So I graduated from college. I went back to my house. I, put all my, my belongings back in my home, and I packed one suitcase and took off from JFK. And yeah, and then I arrived in Bangkok, Thailand. So it was really formative for me, Paul, because it was like it wasn't just my first job. It was like my first job was living in another country where people don't speak that language. So I was living there, I was working there,
But you're also you said you were teaching, so I mean
and I was
teaching,
teaching.
but
Yeah.
teaching that's what I was going to get is that teaching was that a good way of teaching yourself unknowingly to be really good at like being in front of an audience, and was that a good
Ah,
practice for
it's a
you
great question.
to
Yeah.
do like now doing television because you you sometimes have to be in front of an audience. So because I was thinking that teachers have so much that they have to put up with very little pay, and
Yeah.
and you're allowed this opportunity to really mold these people that are supposed to go on and do bigger things. So
Hmm.
do you think you've learned, do you think that year of teaching because do you think that helped you? Because to me it sounds like it did, but I mean I'm just drawing too much into that.
Yeah, no, you know what? No one has ever asked me that question before. And actually, yeah, I think it absolutely did. And, I started out by saying that every experience, you don't realize it, but you're learning things and it is teaching you things. And then you take that experience into the next one. And so, yes, I think that it really getting in front of people and also having to be so these were college students. So the great thing was, these weren't sort of naughty little kids. These were, college kids. So they were mature enough to sit there, but their conversational English was not great. Right. And so I'm teaching them English and I you have to be really articulate and you have to be slow and you have to be purposeful and you have to make sure that they get what you're saying and so much you have to put a lot of passion into that too. I mean, if you're up there boring, just teaching some content, well, their eyes glaze over. And me, you get a quickly you learn, you know what, I've got to do something different. Their eyes are glazing over, and my job is to teach them. And so you really start to put your heart and soul. I give it up to teachers who are passionate because
Hmm.
that makes all the difference. Again, you could be teaching any content, but if you're not doing it in a way that anyone is interested, well, then, you know, I don't know how well they're going to learn it and, whatever. But yeah, so I loved teaching them, and it was cool. And they kind of thought of me as their peer because they were in college. I just graduated college. I, look Asian. I am Asian. They kind of were like confused about me. Like, what, how are you my teacher? But anyway, it was a crazy cool experience. And yes, I think I learned a lot in terms of how to communicate effectively and in a way that was authentic and passionate and articulate and fun and engaging because that was my job.
I mean, sometimes it's good to keep people on their toes and not have the expectation. So maybe it was good. Maybe they felt challenged because they didn't expect you to be the teacher.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. And then, there's the second thing that happens with teachers, which is when you see that light bulb go off in another individual because you taught them something, or their confidence is greater because of you. And people in other countries who don't speak English and they're trying to learn it, I mean, when they can start speaking with confidence in themselves, I mean, you probably have heard this idea that, people who English is their second language, maybe they don't speak it as much as they could because they feel a little self-conscious. They realize they have an accent, or they might be pronouncing wrong. They might be saying the wrong thing. And so while they could do it, they're sort of like, I don't feel
hmm.
confident. Like, and so to be able to give someone else confidence is an awesome gift, and I loved being part of that. And that probably lent itself to the way I am today. I'm always trying to, in any endeavor, in any professional environment, and just personal interactions, I'm always striving to, like, make a difference. I'm not just here to do the job. I'm here to, like, I don't know, make an impact. It's always been um, my interest. I'm not trying to do the bare minimum. Most people are not, but I guess when it comes to me, it's always like, how am I leaving someone? And I take that into my professional work now too.
I mean, it's important to always think about your legacy, and always trying to make other people benefit other people. I mean that if you're thinking that forward, then you're trying to do the best. I mean, it,
Yeah.
I that's the way I would think of it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to take 1 second from this great interview and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid Atlantic Video and Photography Productions. No matter if you're planning a wedding, a special event, or you just need an amazing headshot, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443 422 3830. Again, that's 443 422 3830. Or you can just go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to the show and listen to this great interview. All right, so let's talk about your first and only pageant. So, um, looking back at it, um, are you just like just utterly shocked at that you won, or you're just like, you know, all of your experiences um, put you in such a good position? It was just the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I think that I at the time I remember thinking to myself, if I don't win, I kind of don't care, because this wasn't something like I really wanted badly for some amount of time. It was just kind of like I just did this thing. Um, and I think that, like, maybe probably took the edge off too. I didn't put too much pressure on myself to win because I was like, whatever, I don't know too much about this. But then when I did win, and I encourage every woman in pageantry to think of it more like a celebration of women as opposed to a competition. Yes, at the end of the day, one person's going to win, but look, every woman up on that stage is gorgeous. They're beautiful. They're accomplished. They've got smart things to say and important things to share. And it's really, I'm not here to compare myself to some other woman who looks nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like we're all
No, so
beautiful and we're all doing our thing. And so when you have that mindset, you can really focus more on presenting your best self. And in the process of wanting to present your best self, you're also leaning into who your best self is. I don't know that I previous to that was always trying to be my best self. I was just trying to survive as a mom. But the winning the that title that year, kind of, I leaned into it, and I thought, wow, I'm really proud that I won, and I want to do a good job of this. And so, I don't want to just make it look like I am one thing. I want to actually rise to the occasion and do that. So if I'm going to say I'm going to support women, then let me put my money where my mouth is. I don't want to talk the talk. Let me walk the walk. Let me do those things. And it felt so great, and it was awesome. And so, I think your question was, I guess, an answer to your question. I think that perhaps I was at the right place at the right time, and I had the right mindset, which was, I'm not here to compete with people. I'm here to celebrate all of us. I'm here to celebrate myself at this point in my life. And I'm just like, you know, feeling really positive. And I really think, I have judged pageants at this point as well. And so I really think that I'm not going like who's the prettiest or who has the nicest clothes or who says the nicest thing. For me, it's just sort of this feeling, this vibe that you get from someone when they're just radiating from within, because they all look like $1,000,000, and many of them have pageant coaches, therefore they all sound like amazing. And so I'm not trying to go, well, who sounds or looks better. I'm trying to go, who, has really got that inner glow, like who is just oozing true authentic confidence and is really doing all of these amazing things that they're saying they're doing or that they want to do, who's doing that. And so, anyway, I think it's such a great opportunity for women to step into even greater roles than what they were doing beforehand. And so that certainly was the case for me.
well, I mean, I absolutely agree, and I think we should continue having a platform for women as long as possible, and this is something that should definitely continue. I disagree with people that think that pageants are not a modern thing when it gives so
Hmm.
many women emotional boost and pride and
Hmm.
um, I guess my thought about like breaking down your past experiences that you became more worldly because you did that semester at sea, which I think is really important. You were able to teach and be compassionate in front of students that need to learn things. You were able to become a really good salesperson based on your pharmaceutical sales. And I just think all of those play a role into the reason why you won. And
Yeah.
I always try to break down because if someone comes to me and says, Paul, what I need a great headshot, but what are the fundamental things? If you would have came to me and said, Paul, I need a headshot, but if you would have told me before that, I would have said, it sounds like you're pretty qualified. You just need to really just put everything together. And it's not,
Hmm.
I mean, going into it, if am I wrong? You had no pageant coach, right?
Right.
Right. So, I mean, did you even go out on your wardrobe, or did you just wear something that you already had? Like, was this something that you were just doing for fun? Because that's awesome if you did, because
Right.
I also want to prove to my listeners that you can do it just for fun. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that was the case for me. And look, if for anyone listening who has done lots of pageants and you love them and you're winning all these crowns, and you have makeup artists and pageant coaches, that's awesome too. That's awesome too, because listen, if you love something, then of course you really want to invest in all these ways to improve, and that's wonderful. For me, because I stepped into it when I did and it was not really on my radar, honestly, I just went with it. So yes, I would say that all of my past experiences gave me the confidence to go, I could do this. And I actually specifically remember at the Mrs. DC America pageant, the director saying, I really want a strong personality, and the interview counts for a lot. And she really placed a lot of emphasis on that. And I thought, well, perfect, because I'm 5'2". I'm not like, a supermodel here, but I can nail an interview. And I felt really confident about that because of my experiences. In pharmaceutical sales, that's all you do all day long is sell things to people. You have to speak in a certain way that is articulate and smart and sharp and quick and focused. And I knew that I would do really, really well in that interview. And she's telling me this is really important to this pageant is the interview. You need to sound and be very smart and sharp and answer questions well. And I'm looking for someone who's going to be able to go out into the community. And I don't want someone who just looks great. I want someone who sounds great, and has a lot to say. And so that kind of built my confidence to go, okay, then I can do that. And that was from my previous experience. So I didn't feel like I need a pageant coach there. And in fact, I've coached other women in that specific area because I feel confident about doing that.
And I
But
agree.
yes,
I mean, just the
yeah,
experience that you were telling me, I agree with you. You didn't need that person to help you with that.
yeah,
And the other things like maybe your walk or anything, that's all they're all what I would say. Those are all people's opinion on, if
I agree.
like you can
Agree.
like I mean I have some people that say you shouldn't swing your arms or much, or maybe you need to throw your hips left and right. But I mean, I think that you can show your confidence if you feel really beautiful in your gown
Yeah.
or in your fitness or your bathing suit. I think they'll see it even if maybe you're not the most elegant walker. I mean, like
Yes.
sometimes maybe we walk like a duck or like a penguin,
Hmm.
okay. But if you're the best, penguin in the world, they're gonna
Yeah.
have to pick you, right? I mean,
Yeah. That's right. That's what I'm saying. Like, and when I have judged, I'm not looking for these. And I know that some other really experienced judges are looking for these things. Are you walking just right and all these things? And I'm not discounting that. But for me, I'm looking for something from within, and it's
yeah.
that inner confidence that is like really authentic. And I you can spot it. And so I remember people saying, maybe you should get a patch, coach to help you do the walk, because I was not familiar with that, and I didn't model, and I didn't have this walk. But I just remember being cheap about it. I was like, no, I'm not paying for that. I think I can figure it out. If I can't, walk like a lady yet, then I'm lost. So I just remember going like, I Googled, like, I just was like, no, I'm not paying for that. But I did like Google it on YouTube, and I tried
I
to
was gonna.
go, okay, look,
Uh,
what are they doing that I'm not? Let me just, and at the end of the day, it's too much to think about. Like, I can't think like, where's my arm? To me, I was just like, you know what? I am just going to walk gracefully. I feel confident in my heart, and I hope that's coming out when I walk. And that's it.
I mean, so one of the things that I've heard consistently from all of contestants, and this is not just pageant, this is like models and actors. They watch other people on YouTube or
Hmm.
training. So I have,
Yeah,
if you're
for
not,
sure.
if my listeners are not getting this, she just told you again, you need to watch other people that are successful. It's not a it's not a knock.
Yeah,
Elaine just said to
absolutely.
listen to it. Listen to Elaine. Elaine just said that she took other people's, she saw what they were doing and she applied it to herself. I mean,
That's right.
isn't that what a coach does? A coach sees what you do and then she helps you apply it to yourself. I mean that
Yeah. Listen, you've got to help yourself, right? You've got
yes.
to help yourself. And so you can go the route of hiring a coach who's going to help you. But no matter what you do, yeah, you've got to do your homework. You've got to do your homework to be successful at anything. So yes, like, even though I had never done it before, and I wasn't exactly about to just pay a coach to pick out my wardrobe and teach me how to walk and talk and all that other stuff, I still was like, okay, well, let me watch all the videos from the years before. What were they doing? What style of dresses? Okay, what looks good on me? Like, I'm trying slowly putting together my whole, kind of look here too, because I don't want to go on the stage like being clueless. Confidence will get you very far, but you also need to know a little bit about what you're supposed to be doing here. And so I did all that, and I looked to women that you find what looks great to you, and you go, okay, well, how are they doing it? You don't need to recreate the wheel. And by the way, Paul, that I do that today. So when I get in front of a camera or I do things, and every person is usually looking to up their game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm always, how can I improve? And so there's people that I look up to in this world. And like Angie Goff, she's beautiful, and and I look at her and I go, okay, am I, so listen, I'm not trying to imitate anyone, but
Right.
there's people that you look up to. Sometimes I think, okay, how would Jessica Alba do this? What
Right.
would she? And so I think that because I'm going like, these are people that I
You always need
admire.
someone you need to look up to. I mean, like,
Yeah, and
yeah,
so I try and like see what they're doing, and make sure that I'm doing my best self, and it helps me improve my best self when I'm looking at people who are doing similar things and they're doing it really well. And I encourage everyone to do that.
if you don't have someone that inspires you in the field that you work in, then I would say that you might not be passionate enough to be really successful, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Maybe you don't want to be successful. Maybe you just want to pay the bills, and that's fine too. But like, if
Yeah.
you really want to be successful, you need to find someone that you are have something to compare it to, so you know that you can continue to get better because
Yeah.
you have someone to compete with. So,
Like a mentor, if you will.
yep.
And I think everyone should have a mentor. And it doesn't have to be like, I pay you, you're my mentor. And it doesn't have to be like, we're doing a call every week, you're my mentor. I personally believe that sometimes it can simply be like, just, someone you look up to, and you might be kind of like seeing what they're doing that you appreciate and like, and go, you know what, maybe I can be a little bit more like that. As I mentioned, I have kids, and because you met them, but they're at that age where they're trying to figure out the right way.
Mm-hmm.
What's, I want to be cool, but yet is that nice? And just all those things that kids go through when they're like going in middle school. And I always say to my son, so we've got these neighbors, and they're just great kids. They always say hello, and they're smiling, and they're smart, and they're just awesome kids. And I always say to my son, who is a bit younger, and I say, if you ever wonder what you should do in some situation, ask yourself what he would do. And we know them well enough that I think you might know what he might do in that situation, because he's a great kid and you know who he is. And I'm trying to say that to my son, to give him someone to look up to. So it's not like he knocked on this kid's door, hi, can you be my mentor? I'm gonna,
Mm-hmm.
do everything you do. But it's like, it's someone that he looks up to. And if you're ever confused about what you should say or do in some situation, ask yourself what he would say or do. And then maybe that's what you should try to
Mm-hmm.
do. And so I think that's really important, to have those kind of people look up to, and mentors. And so that's what I do.
I just wanted to take one extra second and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Production. No matter if you're planning a wedding and you need a wedding videographer, you're doing a music video, or doing a commercial, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443-422-3830. Again, that's 443-422-3830. Or you can go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to this great interview. So, Elaine, I am so excited to have you on the show because I have a lot of pageant contestants. But to be honest, I don't have a lot of pageant contestants and title holders that are also very well known actors. And I think there's a lot of people that want to be maybe doing voiceovering, or actually doing commercials, or actually hosting their own shows. So, you had fully admitted you don't have formal training originally, but you're learning as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, give our audience just a little concept. You still live in the DC area.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a lot of projects. What was the first one that really got you going, and then what are some tips and some ideas? And then can you also tell us exactly like all the things you do? Do you do voiceover? Do you do
Mm-hmm.
on screen, and so on and so on?
Sure. So, so, so I will say that whether you have come from a background in pageantry or not, um, you can absolutely start pursuing the world of acting and modeling if that's what you want to do. And I'm happy to share some of the tips. For me, having come from pageantry, a lot of people, I think, from the outside, right? They don't, they just see what they see on social media or something, and they say, "Wow, you won this pageant, and now look, you do all this stuff." I guess if I, it seems like this easy transition. Um, and what I would say is, that whole phrase, like it opened these doors. That whole phrase. I would agree with that, but I would mostly say that pageantry actually just led me down a hallway, and there were doors there. And I would just say it's completely up to that person what you're going to do.
I
Do you
like
want to
that. I like that.
knock on
I
those?
like
Yeah, because it wasn't so much that it opened all these doors, right?
you
Because
had to you
yeah,
that you just you were let down the hallway, but the doors
yeah.
are still closed. But you had to kick them. You had to kick them open.
You have to knock on those doors, and then when
You're so
someone
polite. You're just like, I knocked.
Oh, I didn't kick them. I knocked. I just gently knocked. No, but it's really up to you, right? Like no one is going to do anything for you. Especially, listen, when this comes to your career and whatnot, like an opportunity might present itself, but what are you going to do with it? And so I would say pageantry kind of put me down this hallway, and there were doors there. And when it was all over, in 2016, I could have simply gone back to just doing the mom thing and doing my, Stella and Dot and makeup and all that. I could have done that. But I got a taste of, oh, wow, I love being invited and speaking in front of a crowd. There were times when they invited me to give away awards at big galas and things in DC. And having lived in the DC area for a long time, Paul, I was attending these things, but no one was ever asking me to get on the stage and deliver a quick speech or anything. And so
Hey, it's
it was
it's
just
it's
really cool,
it's
and I loved it.
it's what they call legal drugs. When you get that high and
Yeah.
I don't blame you. So
Yeah. I loved it. I loved it. And so that was like, oh, okay, this is great. I'd love to do more of this. And so when the title passed, here I was in this hallway. What am I going to do? Well, you know what? There's some doors. I'm going to knock on those doors. And when someone answers, what am I going to do with that? And just maybe having come from a sales background, it kind of like gave me that experience to know that, like, if you're not asking, you're not going to get. And every no, like, great, bring them on. Give me 10 no's before I get a yes. So I have that sort of like resilience or tenacity to keep going with what I wanted to pursue. So that was like, for example, if you get a no somewhere, that doesn't knock me down. For others it might go, man, I'm really dejected. Like, but for me, having been in a sales environment, like, that's par for the course. That's how it is. And so I had that in my mind. And so what was my first experience doing this? It was in 2015, and I was at an appearance, and I was wearing the sash and crown. And as a pageant person, you are out there in the community, you are meeting a lot of people. And I truly did think, like, you know what? I don't want to just be standing here shaking, waving, okay, next. I really was looking at it like networking. I am networking myself. Yes, I am here as a representative for the Mrs. DC America organization, but I am also myself. I am Elaine Espinola Keltz. And so, I am meeting people. And when this experience is over, these are still people that I will have met and networked with. And if this is something I'm interested in pursuing, then I need to, keep that in mind. And so, in any event, I was somewhere, and we were just speaking, and this person, after about 15 minutes, thought, you speak really well, and you just have a really great presence about yourself. Have you ever done TV? Have you ever? And I said, no, not at all. And this person said, I mean, you would just be really great on camera, which I love to hear. It totally perked my ears right up. And
hey,
so
anytime we give you a compliment, of like, oh, I can be on television, sure.
right, right. I will take that compliment. No, but in this instance, it was really sincere. And this person happened to be a producer for a local television show. And she
Oh
said,
wow.
let's keep in touch. And I said, yes, let's keep in touch. And we did keep in touch. And a couple months later, um, she invited me to host a local TV show that she was producing on Comcast Community Cable. And I am all about, as you probably have learned in our talking here, I'm all about opportunities. Like, I don't think too hard. I think that sounds great. Let's do it. And so, she invited me to come on set, and I did that, and it was all new to me. I had never done that, and it really was. I'll be honest, like it wasn't just be on camera, no speaking. This was you're hosting a show. Like you are opening, you're closing. This is taped live. There are no, oops, can we do it again? It is taped live. However, as we also discussed right here on your podcast, I believe that every experience you have prepares you for the next. So, having had sort of teaching experience in front of people, having had pharma experience in front of people, having aced that interview, I knew I can do this. Like, I wasn't like, I can handle this. It's the other stuff about being on camera I'm not familiar with, but speaking to someone and having a really great conversation, I can do that. And so those experiences helped me kind of be good at that. And then I started to get really great feedback. The people I was interviewing would say, wow, you're really good. Wow, you can really transition. Wow, you really kept us on task. And, wow, I can really talk a lot, but you just got me back on task. And so I started to feel more confident, like, wow, I feel like I am kind of good at this and I love it for sure. And so that is what started a 3-year experience, hosting a television show. And then um, the person who was producing it was so cool and really gave me so much creative flexibility that I would say, hey, what about a show about this? I found this person, I wrote down these questions. And so I started kind of doing some of that. And she was really impressed. And I would put together whole episodes of my guests with my questions, with my angle, with my this. And she would say, I'm going to give you co producing rights to this. Like that was awesome. And so I was co-producing and then hosting the show. And after 3 years, it was a wonderful experience. But I started to feel like, I am so grateful for this experience. But I have some ideas of my own. And as we also talked about earlier, Paul, having traveled the world, I had this interest in highlighting social issues. So previously, the show was called I'm Every Woman. And we would mostly have women on the show, and it was just fun. Like we would just talk
Mm-hmm.
about fun things. But I kept wanting to talk about like
Push the narrative.
yes, I wanted to talk about human trafficking, and I wanted to talk about to survivors, and I wanted to talk about people in that field that were doing things that were helping, and I wanted to talk
And
to people.
that would probably be really jarring if the narrative of the show was
Yeah,
totally different. So
yeah. Like
you
we were mostly doing fun things, like
right.
just fun like
Like
makeover shows.
if you go from baking to like
Yeah,
human trafficking, your audience would probably just like complete
yeah.
freak out just
And
a little bit.
also, I wanted to be respectful that this was not my show. So I'm not going to come in here and like change everything. And so I was very grateful for this opportunity, very grateful for her allowing me to bring some of my ideas and thoughts. And it was just a great partnership and friendship, and it was awesome. But I just started to feel like I really want to focus on something else. And so with that, I left Capital Connect and then reemerged on the same in the same place, so on Comcast Community Cable at a Comcast station in Reston, with my show called Capital Connect. And it was all about, connecting the community through causes. And I focused mainly on nonprofits and social issues. So I had people talking about, advocating for adoptees, or, the Asian American community in DC, or human trafficking, or just all kinds of nonprofits that were helping. I love that, and I love talking about that. And so it just made me feel great, and I loved highlighting these people that were doing impactful things. And so I did that for 2 years. So yeah, for a total of 5 years, I was hosting a show, and it was amazing. And then, unfortunately, the Comcast station closed after many, many years this past year. So December was my last show. So after 5 years, and then of course that coincided with everything that started to happen with
With COVID, yeah.
coronavirus. And so that ended. And then I was also hosting a podcast for the Better Business Bureau for 3 years. Same thing that ended in March. And so luckily, even though COVID has, opportunities have gotten, life has just changed for everybody. But I still, at the same time, simultaneously, so I was hosting the show, I was doing this podcast, and then I was also doing commercials that broadcast on TV, and then a lot of also video and web projects that were like academic video type stuff, on camera things, but they were not broadcast on TV, right? They might be for someone personal business or someone's website, or like I said, academic training type things, or people would hire me to do, and I love this, live hosting events. I love hosting events live and being the MC and being the person up there who's kind of, keeping this event together, whether it's a conference or some gala. So I love doing that. So I do that as well. I do voiceover work. And so, yeah, I kind of feel really, really lucky that I had the opportunity to try out a whole bunch of different kind of experiences within media. So live things on TV, on the radio, on podcasts, on just voiceover stuff for certain projects. So I feel like I've gotten a lot of great experience. And then also like producing as well is really, I love that. Paul, I don't really just want to be the face or voice of anything. I want to have an input. I want to kind of share my ideas, and I love putting that all together behind the scenes as well.
Oh yeah. I get that impression. I get the impression that you want to make a big difference and big change.
Yeah.
The two big things that you did, you were actually hosting and trying to make impact. So
Mm-hmm.
that it shows that you definitely are not just willing to take any opportunity. You're looking for specific things that would engage you personally.
Yeah. Now, in the beginning, and for anyone who's listening, who's like, hey, I want to pursue this. In the beginning, I took everything. I did everything, and I had that. I had that drive. There was little I would say no to, and then it was really having my husband. And so, I encourage every person to have, like, a mentor. My husband's my mentor too, and so he, after a while, would say, you are more experienced than, you don't need to take this job, this gig that's really far away, that's just doesn't pay that, like, doesn't pay as much. It's just not worth it.
Right.
It's not worth your time. And so he really helped me see that, in order to get to the next level, I'm just going to start to say no to things. And that felt really great. That kind of showed me after several years, like, hey, I I've earned the right to ask for a certain rate, or, because I know what I'm going to put forth. I know that I'm not just going to be the face of something. If you have an event, I'm going to help promote it, and I have a strong network. And when I show up that day, I'm going to be very well versed. And I'm not just going to come out and say the words you want me to say, but I'm going to put my heart and soul, my feeling and my passion behind it. And I'm going to do a great job. And so therefore I'm commanding a certain rate because I know what I bring to the table.
Of course.
And that feels awesome because I want to add value is the point. I'm adding value.
I think that adding value to anything is really important. And when you find that you have come to that point where you add value to the category of business that you're in, it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that the opportunities that you've had is specifically based on the demographic and the actual surroundings that we're in? Like, do you think that you would have still had those opportunities if you were in Idaho and the local Idaho local station? Or is it because we have a very unique situation here in DC and Baltimore and Virginia where there is a lot of money maybe floating around? There's maybe a little bit more opportunities.
You ask some good questions.
Oh, thank you.
You ask great questions, Paul.
I'm just curious because as an actor, sometimes people are really frustrated. I have an actor friend. He just graduated from the University of Maryland, and he's trying to get jobs. So, what do you think you should look for, or what do you think? Like you said specifically, you're willing to take any job coming to you, but then you feel that you establish yourself. But do you think that's you were afforded those opportunities because of there was more opportunities here?
Got it. Great question. Like I said, you really do ask me questions that no one has ever asked before. So I guess my answer would be twofold. On one hand, I would say whatever it is you want to do, you can and you will do it if you want to bad enough, meaning you will keep plugging away. And if you're having a hard time landing auditions, you're having a hard time, whatever line of work you're in, if you're just having a hard time, if you keep with it, you keep honing your skills, you keep doing the behind the work hard stuff. You know that graphic where you see that iceberg
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone can see the tippy top
Yes.
of your quote success or whatever people see.
But they
But
don't see the underneath.
they don't see all the failures. They don't see all the no's. They don't see all the hard work. They don't see all the research you've put into yourself or the investment you've put into yourself. That's the stuff that no one sees. And I do believe that if there's anything you want to do, you you know nothing worth it comes easy. So it's going to take a lot of time, effort, energy, and pursuit to make that happen. And I believe that. Now, the second part of it is, well, is it there's something special about this demo, like the DMV and this? And I mean, on one hand, I suppose I would say having at least a strong network was helpful, but not necessary. If you can pick up a phone and call someone, then you should, whether you know them or not. And it's, hey, if you've got friends that can give you connections, that's even better. But if you don't, it's not impossible. You just have to get out there and network yourself too. And then, we do live in a very diverse area. And I think, as far as just being on camera goes, I have a diverse look. Maybe that helps me. I don't know. Uh,
Which is
you
all
know,
good for you too, because
yeah,
that gives you more opportunities too. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but it's
But
always good to get
yeah,
it. I find it's good to get a perspective of the surroundings too, because you got to be truly honest with yourself. So,
yeah, yeah. And then maybe sometimes I think sometimes what we end up doing is a shift from what we originally thought, right? So, so maybe you really want to be in the movies. Well, before you get there, you might find yourself doing different things. And then ultimately, maybe you're never a movie star, but you are a super successful radio personality. And maybe in the scheme of getting from A to B, you find that you love that. And so I think that's important too, to just be like flexible and be open. I never thought, podcast wasn't on my radar. And that was one of those things when I had this opportunity to host this podcast for the Better Business Bureau. I really wanted to be on camera. That was where I was trying to go. And I always had my husband in my ear saying, are the things that you're doing getting you closer to what you want? And the podcast, like, it kind of wasn't. But I did it anyway, and I'm so glad. It was 3 years, and it was awesome, and I loved it, and it honed other skills, and I love it. And so I guess my point is that sometimes what you think you want to do, sometimes that shifts, and you find in the experience of getting there that something else was really your calling. So just my advice is to just be really open, um, continue to be sort of determined in what you want to pursue, and you will meet more people. I think networking is huge, and putting yourself out there is huge. Putting yourself, this is going to sound all kinds of like hokey pokey, but putting your intentions out to the universe, I believe, is huge. If there's something you want, don't keep it to yourself, because you're not going to go far. Start talking to people. You just never know who's going to say, hey, I know someone, or hey, it's really great to meet you. I kind of like what you're about. Give me your card. You just got to keep putting it out there and putting it out there and doing the research and working on your skills. And I believe that things will move in your direction.
I mean, that's all really good advice. I usually end the show by asking any good advice, but I think you kind of summed it up without even me asking. So, I believe in the you have to you have to wish it into existence. I think that's the name of the book. The Oprah. What's the Oprah book that everyone always criticizes? But um,
Hmm. I don't know, but I love
I
Oprah.
think it's called like Believe or
Hmm.
Dream or something like that. And the
Mm-hmm.
concept is you have to you have to want it so much that you make it into existence. So
Yes. Yes, you will it to happen. And then you didn't ask for this, and I know we're ending the show here, but the advice, right? So I will just say
mhm.
energy is really powerful, and it's facts, right? So if you lead with positive energy, you're going to have positive interactions with other people. You are going to do positive things for yourself, and energy is really really powerful, and it will help any individual to focus on that. Okay. Negative energy is also very powerful. So, if someone says no to you and you're feeling all kinds of negative about that and you just can't get over it, you can't see the positive in that. Sometimes when someone says no to you, that's a blessing. because perhaps that wasn't meant for you, or, perhaps that didn't lead you to the next thing that really was awesome. So you just always have to maintain this positive perspective and lead with positive energy. And that is the secret to my success anyway. And that would be some
I
advice I'd
mean,
share.
I can't disagree with you at all. I mean, a no also doesn't mean no. If you're working with them professionally, no might not be no forever. It just might be no for the current project.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
thank you so much, Elaine. I am so impressed by all of your successes, and I know all of your colleagues are, and I always use you as a representation of what you can take full advantage of being a pageant contestant and then going on and then making a whole career out of something that you never aspired to do. And
Hmm.
I, if anyone has taken full advantage of all her opportunities, I can't imagine another person that I know professionally that, uh, unlike yourself, that has completely taken all those opportunities. So kudos to you for always taking those opportunities and really working hard. So
Oh, thank you for saying that. That really means a lot.
no, I
I
mean
appreciate it,
it's
Paul.
truthful. It really is.
Thank you.
I I I definitely would use you as a person to demonstrate that if given the opportunities, there's so many things that open up. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if anyone's listening and I can help you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out.
I would absolutely encourage you if she's telling you, listeners, she's telling you to reach out to her. So if she's telling you, and Elaine is an incredible person to mold yourself after and really learn, we just sat here for an hour and learned all this stuff. There's got to be other stuff that she hasn't told us yet. Okay, because I could probably do another 2 hour deep dive and learn. So trust me, I think you guys will really reach out to her. And I thank you so much, Elaine, for coming on the show. And we'll have to catch up in the future and after COVID, and we'll see what's going on. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate your friendship and thank you for
Oh,
having
of
me on your
course.
podcast.
Elaine, thank you so much for coming on the show. What an incredible interview. Love all the information. Love talking about semester at sea. Such a great program. I love talking about that. I personally didn't get to do semester C. I got to do another program, like I mentioned, people to people. Incredible. If you have the financial resources and time, please do it. It will change your world. It will change your career and change your mindset. That said, congratulations to all of your success, Elaine. And I know there will only be more great success to come for you, specifically your husband and your entire family. Thank you so much to all of our listeners. I know we are really still in trying times. I appreciate you guys subscribing, staying tuned, giving us comments, really supporting us, and I appreciate all of that so much. And I know that you guys are really enjoying also our movie review show with my co-host Yvonne Carlos called The Movie Breakdown. And I really appreciate you guys. Just continue giving us some feedback on what you like us to review, and we will do that. And as always, please like, subscribe, and comment. We're both on YouTube and iTunes. And as always, stay tuned.